Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today I wanted to talk about something that may or may not come up in your meditation practice because it's been coming up in my meditation practice quite a bit over the last year and a half, 2 years. And it is our story, our life story, somewhere hovering in the background. As the title says, your story is your DNA. Our story is basically a nutshell. In a nutshell, is how we have lived our life. Now, the reason why I came up with this topic is because last few days I was experiencing a little bit of resistance in my practice, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing. That means that things are coming up, and that allows me to work with them, to deal with them. So one of the so I it came up and it was difficult to meditate, but I had to sit through and I did my quote unquote daily goal of the certain amount of meditation that works for me personally. And I was sitting there, it was difficult, and I just tuned in to see what this resistance was. What was this heaviness? What was this unwillingness to sit for practice, which is, unusual, really. And I spent maybe a day or two on in it. And last night when I was sitting, I realized what it was, and it was a leftover of my life story. It is a story. Not everybody has that kind of resistance, but if you have had some trauma in your life, some difficult experiences, particularly early on, because early on, as children and as teenagers, we do not have the mental faculty to really distinguish from what is real and what is not real. If someone says something horrible to us, uh, we don't have the mental capacity of saying, "Who's this person?" You know, why should I even pay attention to their opinion? But when we're younger, we're more open to receiving these negative comments and feedback. So I realized that part of me did not want to go further in the practice. Everybody can sit down and start meditating twice a day early on. That's wonderful. That's an amazing thing. But as we continue with it over the weeks, months, and years, we go deeper and things come up and we deal with them. As my teacher calls them, places where we are caught. And that's part of meditation as well. Meditation is not sitting, and I had to learn this the hard way. Meditation is not sitting and getting into states and feeling just so good, feeling relaxed. Yes, it might have something to do with it. And yes, at times there are times that we feel relaxed and content and happy, maybe even ecstatic. But that's not the goal of meditation, right? The goal of meditation is seeing things as they are and discovering where we're caught, again, as my teacher says. So as I sat down working with this resistance, I realized that even though I have been working quite a bit with my story, with complex trauma, with life's experiences from the past, and these life experiences, the stories are very often subconscious. They're in our deep down in our conscious, subconscious mind, and they don't go away, but they sort of meddle with our life's experiences. So we have to go back and revisit those stories. It's very, very important in my personal experience to deal with those stories because otherwise we won't be going anywhere. I always imagine a ship somewhere with its anchor dropped in the ocean and it tries to go away, but the harder it tries, the harder it is. And it sometimes just turns in circles, I would imagine. So we have to remove the anchor before we can move forward. It's very important um, to do so. So we have to discover our stories that are holding us back. And those stories may be, I'm not good enough. I'm not worth enough. Who am I to reach enlightenment? Or I might say I'm a failure. And just because we have failed, it doesn't mean that we're a failure. But our story is more a feeling than really rational arguments sometimes, very often actually. So it is important to explore those stories and go back. And when we sit with them, we become aware of them. We can go back in time, see where it um, was created, really. So basically, we become aware of those stories and we have to dig deep. We have to really dig deep. Sometimes you see a rock in a garden and you try to dig it out, and the more you dig, you realize it's actually a big boulder. And sometimes it may take a whole day or 2 days to really dig around it, get under that boulder, get the right tools, get enough people, remove it, take it out, put it somewhere else. And that's with our life stories. We have to explore them, see where they were created, where they were really born. I think I've mentioned a couple of times that last summer, late summer, um, I had a resistance that lasted for exactly a month, really. And I was working very hard on it every day. Halfway through, after 2 weeks, I got a little bit of a breakthrough, but breakthrough came when I went to another sesshin retreat, and I couldn't really do anything. So I sat outside after the opening ceremony. I spent a long time on it. And the question that really got me to breakthrough is like, what is this resistance trying to protect me from? And boom, it was gone. So the stories can be from way, way back, from times when we were 5 or 6. I've had those. And from 16, 17, anytime. And we have to dig deep and we have to discover them. Why is it important to work with these stories? Because they really are our DNA. The way we act, the way we talk, the way we feel, the way we project our past and future very often is from this quote unquote story DNA, right? Imagine you're in high school and people bully or harass you. Say you're 14, I don't know. People bully and harass you and people call you ugly all the time. And that hurts. And that hurt stays with you. And that hurts becomes a story. And later on, when you're an adult, you don't think, you may have forgotten about that experience, but that DNA, that story is still within you. So very often when people say, I'm not lovable, I don't deserve love, or they say, I just can't find somebody to love, very often it's those stories that happen, like this example when you're 14, someone tells you you're ugly, or you're fat, or whatever, which isn't true. Every human being has a certain beauty. Every person to the right person is a treasure. And that person will doubt herself, thinking, am I really worthy? And they might not be able to very often establish a positive lifelong relationship. I know I had those experiences in my life. I know how challenging it can be. Even when we try to find somebody, the story in our back of our head says, no, you're not worthy. Why would anybody love you? Which is sad and which is not true. So we have to work with those stories and really change them to move forward. We have to dig deep and we have to work with them and we have to be patient. I think the problem is in our society, action is very much overemphasized. Action, do this, do that. Action solves all the problems. No, action doesn't solve all the problems. Um, Action is important, certainly, but it doesn't solve all the problems, right? Being, we have to learn how to be, just to be. Doing versus being. They're two different things. So sometimes we want to push forward when it's not working and it just doesn't work and it erodes our self-esteem and faith in ourselves. Whereas with being, we are able to receive the message of what is needed. When we sit with our story, when we sit in tune with our resistance, then the solutions usually come to us. It's far, far more effective than action, 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 right? In that case, action might be just wishful thinking. So we have to be patient. We have to work with those stories and we have to change them. Just a personal note, I've been having some recurring dreams about champion. In my dream, there would be some champion of sport champion, and we would be training together and so on and so forth. Or sometimes I would have to wake them up, and I thought it was very strange. I've had it for quite a while, and I explored, and I couldn't find what it really means. Yes, it makes sense on an intellectual level, but deep down, I could not really collect with this dream. And I work with my dreams all the time. And I think yesterday or today, I realized that a dream means changing my story, being a champion in our own life, right? That's what it means. It means that my story is holding me back. That's what it meant. And it went right over my head, to be honest. But essentially, what that dream meant to me is become a champion, to let go of that story of being limited, being weak, being not enough. Because when we're children, we can learn any language, we can learn any skill, we can connect with anybody more or less. We have no limitations. But when we grow up, we collect these stories. Some are good, some are not good. We start doubting ourselves. And if we doubt ourselves in our practice, it's going to be a challenge. One more note before I go. Some time ago, I had another resistance, thinking I'm not good enough to continue my practice somehow. It wasn't really intellectual. There's a feeling that comes up that interferes with the practice. So a friend of mine had told me about some enlightenment stories in one book. And I spent a lot of time reading those enlightenment stories again and again and again. And that after weeks, maybe in a few months of working with it, I realized, no, everybody can reach enlightenment. It's impossible not to if you put in the effort and work. Maybe not full enlightenment, but an awakening experience, which is more than enough for me. And then I was able to change that story into this impossibility of like winning the lottery, awakening, enlightenment being like impossible thing that maybe if you win the lottery, maybe if you're chosen lucky one. To no, everybody around me is awakening. Everybody around me is reaching enlightenment. It's impossible not to reach it if you put in 20 years into it. And boom, my story was changed. And at that particular time, I was able to go past that resistance. And that sesshin, that retreat was absolutely amazing. I went far deeper in my practice that I have had ever done. That's it for today. Have a blessed day and looking forward to talking to you next time. Goodbye.